Hi guys, this is Andrea. Today I'm gonna kind of break down how to pass the Texas EC-6 exam. Um, just because whenever I was about to take that exam, I would look up YouTube videos and nobody really broke it down for me. Everybody would just talk about 240 tutoring, which is great, or EC tutoring, which another, great resource. But I feel like nobody really broke it down for me. So I'm about to break down all the areas that you need to study for and some extra tools because I don't think a lot of people know about them. And so I'll show you that, okay? Alrighty, so let me just kind of preface this by saying that I am on an alternate certification route. So I am not an education major, or, I didn't graduate with that. I graduated with the biology and biochemistry degree. And so I was already exposed to a lot of mathematics and a lot of science. So really for those kind of areas, I didn't have to study, but I know great tools for them because I already teach that, right? Um, so I currently teach mathematics, right? Um, and one of the things that really help, I guess, well, I already teach that, so I was already exposed to it, so I didn't really have to study, but you do need to go ahead and pull up the third grade STAR, fourth grade STAR test, fifth grade STAR test, and study them. Like you just have to go on that website, study that test, make sure you get 100 on all of them because the test is mainly composed of that third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade STAR test material. Now there are some questions talking about strategies that you can use, and make sure you are always kind of choosing an answer choice that talks about having some kind of manipulatives or having some hands-on or having some real world application because that's what they want, right? Like that's the point of teaching. Whenever you teach, you have to make it very concrete for them where you're showing them hands-on or you're kind of applying this to a real life application. That's the key to those scenarios. So whenever it's not really like a problem that they're giving you, make sure you're always choosing the answer that talks about real life scenarios. How are they going to use this? Well, if they're talking about money, like it's obviously so that they can apply it to their life later on and they can know how to use money, right? Now let me show you that website for finding the STAR test. You just have to go on Google. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna type in lead forward. It looks like this. Okay, you're gonna go into that website. You're gonna click on it, and on top there it says new teacher support. You're gonna click on that. I'm sorry, not new teacher support. I'm sorry. You're gonna click on resources. Click on resources. And it's going to give you all the grades, I believe up to maybe 12th grade. No, up to high school. And if you click on them and you kind of play with it, it will take you to the STAR test that we've previously done, right? So all the STAR tests from like 2021, 2022, 2023, you can look at them and work those problems out. If you get 100, great, you're prepared because that's literally what it is. It's just third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade math, right? Now, some skills that are on there or some kind of teaks are definitely area perimeter. You do have to know how to do that. You just have to be an expert at it. You have to know how to um, get percentages. Percentages is huge. Like if you don't know how to get a percentage from a number and a pretty big number, then you will not be able to pass because I got a lot of questions on percentages. So know how to do percentages for real. And then also know how to subtract decimals, know about statistics, know probability. And again, they're going to give you a lot of scenarios where you will have to like know what the teak is talking about. So maybe going over some teaks and seeing what they learn in second grade, what they learn in third grade, what's appropriate for a kindergarten to do or learn, that would be really helpful, right? So like obviously learning multiplication doesn't apply to a second grader. They're still not learning that. They learn that towards the very end, but they do start learning multiplication in third grade. So know that type of stuff. Multiplication, division doesn't start till third grade, and then of course they go with it for fourth, fifth, and sixth. But obviously, like a second grader would not be doing multiplication just yet. So they do give you scenarios like that, like what happens if little Johnny slices apples into 6 different parts. What are they learning? Well, you're going to have different scenarios. Are they learning addition? Are they learning subtraction? Are they learning fractions? Are they learning multiplication? So obviously the answer for that would be fractions, right? Like that's what they're learning. And so that's why it's important to know the TEKS and what they learn in each grade, because if you don't, then you're going to be like, well, I'm not sure if they're learning fractions in second grade, right? So it's important to kind of browse over that a little bit. I didn't really do that too much because, like I said, that's what I teach. So oftentimes I go back into seeing what they already learned in second grade and what they're going to learn in fourth grade. So I kind of already was exposed to that a lot. Okay, so that's one of the resources for mathematics. For science, I would say go on YouTube for science and maybe look over stuff that you learn in fourth and fifth grade. So again, maybe those STAR tests would really help out. And again, they're on Lead Forward. They have all subjects, all TEKS, all grades. Go on that and take a science test. Maybe for fourth and fifth grade, I feel like it was heavily based on fourth and fifth grade, maybe even sixth grade, because I don't think they start taking STAR tests until fifth and sixth. So take those STAR tests and make sure you're acing them, because a bunch of those questions are from there. You really have to know all about the planets. What are, rocky planets? What are you have to know the characteristics of the planets. You have to know life cycles of animals. You have to know Newton's law. You have to know gravity. You have to know momentum. You have to know all of that. Like, you really have to get it in your head. And maybe you kind of were already exposed to this if you were a biology major, so you won't really have a hard time. Now, a lot of those questions are really simple, and it's something like, where does the rain come from? The clouds. Like, obviously it's not that easy, but there's some really obvious questions that you don't really have to study for. But again, if you want to be super confident, I would really suggest you look at those STAR tests and just work them out. Now, one of my coworkers suggested this book for the reading portion of the tests, and I would say that this is kind of a good book, but make sure you're looking at these numbers. This is a 291, and the test that people currently take right now in 2020, since 2021 up to 2024 so far, is to 391. So this is a outdated one. It's incorrect. It's an expired book, but it's still very helpful for the reading portion. So for the reading portion, all I really did was skim through some pages, maybe for 5 minutes a day, and just kind of take some notes. And my brain would kind of get used to that. Like, it talks about synonyms, suffixes, prefixes, all of that, which I kind of already knew, right, from like going to school. Whenever you go to school, they teach you this, but it talks about them in a deeper level. But like I said, it's kind of like a review on your head, right? Like a review on this. That's all it really is. I would say that the ELAR portion of the test doesn't really go as deep as this book. And I think part of it is because this is a 291, and the 291 back then was kind of in place for the STR, which now we have to take separately, right? So I would say that, again, the reading one, there's a lot of scenarios and a lot of why are we doing this? Like, how are they going to apply this to the real life? And they're going to give you a bunch of answer choices, and you have to choose the one where they're exposed to this outside of school, where they're using this kind of skill outside of school. Okay? That's for reading. Now, for social studies, a lot of people say social studies is the hardest one. I really don't think so. And I did grow up in Texas, and I did go to school in Texas, so that might be part of why it wasn't really hard for me. But if you're not from Texas, then it might be a little bit harder for you. So for social studies, it's Texas history, right? It's a lot of Texas history, not a lot of I guess, just U.S. history. Texas is part of the U.S., but it's mostly based on Texas history because obviously if you're in Texas, you're going to be teaching Texas history. Now, you do have to know the Alamo. So if there's a book out there or maybe Google, please know everything you can about the Alamo. There's a lot of questions on that. Um, know all the details, know why the Alamo was there, know who won, know why people didn't want to be allied with Texas anymore. Like know everything about the Alamo. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say about that. You also have to know all the. I'm sorry. Know all the. I have notes here. Know all the amendments. So know all the amendments from, and I don't even know how many amendments there are, but know all the amendments from the first one to the 25th. I don't know if that's all of them that are out there, but those are the main ones. You will get questions on them, and they're just random questions. So they might just ask you, in what amendment was slavery outlawed in, or something like that, right? Or like, what is the First Amendment? It's just kind of random. And I've heard this from other people. I got a question that was pretty similar to one of theirs, but it had to do with a different amendment. So I can't really tell you study only this one because you have to know all of them. For the social studies part, again, there's always key words that kind of lead you to the answer. So, for example, they might give you 3 characteristics. So they might say, oh, the state was very poor, and the state, like negative stuff about the state, right? Even if you don't know anything about it, you can already kind of predict that because it's talking so negative, like the characteristics are being so negative, the answer choice has to do with something that is kind of negative as well, right? So even if you don't know anything about it, you can already tell, and this is kind of how I kind of did it, but there was an answer choice that was talking about, the state being on its best. It was productive. There was another one talking about something similar like that, like, oh, it's being productive. Then there was one that's talking about, oh, this is the depression of the state. And there was another one kind of in the middle, but right away, because they're talking about so many depressing things, it's going to be the one that's talking about the depression of the state. So look out for those keywords. I'm sorry. And those will really help. Like, even if you don't know anything about the questions, look at those keywords. Those keywords will help you. And I think part of passing this test is really just knowing how to be a good test taker, and being confident in yourself. That's really essential for this test. It's a 6-hour test. You really have to know how to time yourself, and how to have those good testing strategies. Okay? Alrighty. Sorry if I'm going too fast, but I don't want to make this a long video and then people get bored of it, right? Like, I want to be informative and as engaging as possible, which is a question that might be on the exam. Like, you have to be engaging with your students. Let's see. So I already went over mathematics, science, ELAR, social studies. Now for fine arts, this is my tip, and please do this. But if you have Facebook or Instagram or any type of social media, search EC-6 study groups, okay? Search that up, and there will be some study groups that are going to pop up. Join their page and look at what people are saying. Look at when they're meeting and when they're doing those Zoom calls, okay? And like, get yourself involved. If you're one of those people who are totally lost and you have test anxiety, I never did that, but from other people that I know, that's what they did, and it helps them. It helps them, be confident in themselves, and it helps them make friends and make those bonds and, really study. Now, I did use the resources that they posted on there. So I went on Facebook, I searched up EC-6 study groups, and there's some fine arts majors who are on there, and they're giving you tips and tricks on how to read music, how to analyze an art, fine arts problem, which is helpful if you have never been exposed to that area. Okay, now I was in band from I believe fifth grade through eighth grade, so I was already kind of exposed to reading music, but this test really goes deep into reading music. So you really have to know how to read music. So this is just a little lesson that I'm going to teach you. But again, these notes are on Facebook, and some of these people are experts at explaining this. So that's why it's important to go on those Facebook pages. They're experts in that area. They're going to teach you a lot better than I will, right? So you do have to know how to read music. There's at least in the test, there's 3 different types of scales. There's the treble scale, there's the bass scale, and I believe there is it's either the F scale or the C scale, which I'm not going to go over, just the treble and bass, okay? So for treble, this is how you read notes. This is how you read the lines, the actual lines. It's every good boy does fine. And then the middle 4 lines, those blank spaces, it's face. So F-A-C-E, okay? That's treble clef. Bass clef is different. So you really have to know how to read whether it's a treble clef or whether it is a bass clef. Now, bass clef, it is good boys do fine always. And the middle parts is all cows eat grass, okay? You do have to know how to read that. You have to know how to read sharp notes, natural notes, and the other one I believe is a dull one. Well, it's the opposite of sharp, right? You have to know what they mean. You have to know that whenever somebody is playing a sharp note, they're going half above what they're supposed to be. If somebody is playing the dull note, they're going half below what they're supposed to be, right? You have to know what dynamics are. You have to know what tempo is. You have to know what a recorder is. You have to know what you use to measure the beats. So you really have to go on either YouTube or Facebook, find those groups, and have an expert kind of tutor you through it. That is essential. That is really important, okay? Now, the fine arts portion is composed of different things. It's composed of music, art, PE, and theater, right? Now, for the art portion, you have to know the color wheel, okay? And you can look it up on Google, color wheel. It will pop up. You have to know what complementary colors are. That means they are kind of like this. They're kind of the opposite. You have to know what analogous, I don't know how to say that word, but it's spelled ANALOGOUS. Those colors are right next to each other, right? You have to know what, there's like 5 different types, so maybe type it up on Google. I cannot think about that from the top of my head, and I'm trying to look at my notes to what I have and see if I can find anything. But you have to know all of that. Maybe I can show you a picture of it here. So complementary colors, I talked about that. You have to know beat, tempo. Oh, a flat one. There you go. Sharp and flat. You have to know how to read the notes. What does a whole note look like? What does a quarter note look like? All of that. You have to know, and this is what I was talking about. So usually in those Facebook groups, somebody has like a file and they have notes on fine arts and stuff like that, and it looks a little bit like this. I printed it out so I can read it, and it has the color wheel. I made some notes here just to help me remind, and those acronyms again are gonna come in handy. Like if you don't know anything about this, be silly and write those acronyms out. So primary colors is red, yellow, and blue. Well, I did rib, and the way I think about it is like my primary meal. What would be my primary dish? Well, ribs, right? Like they're the main course. That's how I kind of memorize some of this stuff. Or like secondary, I put gob, which honestly I can't really say why, because it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of weird how I memorized it, but like GOP, like that's the acronym I got for it, right? Like it's stuff like that. Like just be silly with yourself and make these acronyms for you. Um, so know that I think the health portion of the exam is easy. It's just common sense. Like, why is exercising important? Well, there's 4 questions, and there's always 2 that you're kind of like, oh, well, I think maybe this is why. Like, make sure it's always the one that's answering the question, because one of them might be, well, so that you can be less stressed, and another one so you can be more healthy. Well, if you're in a health class, you're caring about your health. Yeah, being less stressed is important, but you're in the health class, so this takes priority over this, if that makes sense. And there's a lot of questions like that, and that's why it's important to have those good test taking strategies. Like, whatever the question's asking, what are some keywords that you can decipher from there and apply it into your answer choice, right? You have to know all types of instruments, so know what percussion is composed of, know what wood instruments are composed of, know what wind instruments are composed of. And I feel like that goes over a lot, but again, those Facebook groups, study groups, are heaven sent. Okay, now on those Facebook study groups, there are also a lot of scams, so be careful, because a lot of people go on there and they talk about some boot camps, like, oh, I have a boot camp that you can join. I tried to join one and they said it was $450 for 3 days. I said, no, sir. It's a lot of money. So I personally believe you don't have to spend that much money to pass this exam, as long as you're just confident in yourself. And I mean, study what I told you to study. That's giving you at least a passing grade. And you'll be set. Part of this test is just knowing how to manage your time in the actual exam. It's a 6-hour exam, but each section is composed of smaller units. So 6 hours, 6 subjects. One subject, I believe, is an hour, 30 minutes. But the questions are lengthier. So like English is a lengthier subject versus the fine arts, which is only 35 minutes, but you have 40 something questions. So that kind of leaves you with less than a minute for each question. So make sure you really know your stuff with the mathematics portion with those STAR exams. Have good taking strategies, and have a healthy breakfast. I think for me, that was like a big thing. I only studied 1 day before my exam. And I'm just that type of person. I just have to study 1 day and I'll be fine. But if you know yourself and you know you have to study a lot more, then do it, right? Like, don't leave it till the last minute. Eat a healthy breakfast. I did not do that. I procrastinated. Like I said, I studied the day before, and then the next day I woke up early, I studied, and then I went to go take my exam, which I would not recommend. That is stressful for just like a normal person. Don't do that. Okay, but that's it. You'll do great. If you have any questions, follow me on TikTok, Facebook, and I can answer them. I was thinking about tutoring people because I feel like it's a lot about just having good test taking strategies, but we'll see how it goes. If you like this video and if it was helpful, give me a thumbs up. Bye.